Hello and welcome. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for listening. Today I'm talking to William Warren. How are you, William?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm good. You're joining us from Atlanta.
That's right, Atlanta, Georgia, here on the East Coast. We have had a lot of storms lately, so I'm hoping that our power won't go out while we're on this call, but happy to be here.
I'll have to ad-lib if you disappear.
Yes, that's right.
So you're founder and CEO at the Sketch Effect.
That's right. I've got the best job in the world. I love what I do. We have an awesome team, an awesome brand, and looking forward to sharing a little bit more about it to your listeners.
You've been going there for, 7 years? Is that right?
Just over 7 years. Yeah. So officially 2013, the fall of 2013 was when I quit my job in corporate marketing and started this crazy sketch business from scratch. And we've grown every year ever since. With the minor exception of 2020, there's something that happened last year that you may have experienced also that had some disruptive effects on our business, but we have rebounded and are having a great year this year. And so, yeah, it's been a fun journey.
I can't think of anything that may have happened in 2020.
No, nothing comes to mind, right?
No. So just to frame this for everyone, we're going to be talking about the making events more visual by making them more exciting, adding the wow factor. Very much it was face-to-face real life events, but now virtual and hybrid events, but how we can really bring that visual side to events. And then also, whilst we've got you, we might tap into some of the other subjects that you talk about, which is things like active listening, and also going from sort of a creative to setting up your own small business and the things to think about and how to get that revenue and how to get that growth. So those are just some of the things that we're going to be covering today. If you are listening and you'd like to ask any questions, please do use the chat. We're live on Facebook, we're live on LinkedIn, and we are live on YouTube. And of course, if you're listening to us on the podcast, that's fabulous for being here. Please do hit that subscribe button if you enjoy this content as well. So, William, how did you get in? Why did you create the Sketch Effect, and what's it all about?
Great question. So I never set out to be an entrepreneur. I never set out to start a business or to run a company. So I kind of happened into this by accident, really. And so to back up a little bit, growing up, I was always obsessed with drawing and sketching and illustration. Always loved cartoons and comics. And for me, that was like my first love. I always just loved to draw, get the pen on the paper, and sketch out ideas in the form of visual stories. And so that was always kind of my passion growing up, and did it a little bit on the side, kind of freelance throughout my younger years. And then throughout my early career, had a few twists and turns and ended up in a corporate marketing job at a large quick service fast food company here in the States. And it was a great role. Learned a ton about marketing, learned a ton about leadership and business. It was sort of my crash course in business. And so it was great, learned a ton. However, the creative side of me was not being fully leveraged. The creative passion in my soul was kind of starting to shrivel up. And so in order to have a creative outlet in my job, I would just draw during meetings. Either I would draw in my own little sketchbook, my notebook, just to kind of doodle out the ideas that we were talking about. Or if I was leading a meeting, I would hop up on the whiteboard and kind of visually scribe out kind of what we were talking about. If I had a presentation to give, I would sketch out my concepts and scan them in and put them into my PowerPoint deck. Again, this was just for me to have a creative outlet, just to kind of get to draw at work in my role that didn't have a lot of drawing as part of the job description. But what I realized is that people found value in that form of communication. They found value in taking images and visual concepts and marrying it with communication. They found value in taking ideas and presenting them in a way that's visual. And so what happened was people around the company started to ask me to come and do sketching for their meetings, which wasn't my job description. So I did a little bit, and then word spread, and then people outside of the company found out that there was this guy named William who has this weird skill of drawing out ideas. And so they offered me money to come do it for them. And so I took PTO, took some time off, and would fly to different cities around the US and sketch in people's meetings and conferences. And the more I learned about it, I realized this was really cool. There was this kind of growing industry called graphic recording or graphic facilitation that I was just learning about, sketchnoting, visual communicating. And I was really intrigued by it. And so based on that kind of demand, that momentum, and just personal passion I had in it, I decided to quit my job and start a business that was all about helping others communicate their ideas visually.
And you've now got a team of, what is it, 17 of you?
Correct. We've got about 10 full-time team members, and we have about eight or nine contractors. And yeah, we do a lot of work all over the world. Pre-pandemic, we would fly all over the United States, then outside the U.S. Now with virtual events, which we'll get into, we're working with clients all over the world, from Australia to Saudi Arabia to Germany to Latin America. And so, yeah, we've had a lot of growth over the last few years, and it's, like I said, it's been a roller coaster, but it's been mostly a great journey, and we've had a lot of fun.
One of the things, whilst you were talking just then around virtual events, is that one of the things that I found is that where organizations have had to move to virtual, which of course, most have it, they've either stopped doing events or they've moved to virtual. They of course, offline events cost a lot of money. Virtual events in comparison are, a lot less budget. Does that mean that they've got more budget for the likes of bringing someone like yourself in to add that wow factor?
Potentially, yeah. With virtual events, before with in-person, you had to consider the venue and the food and the entertainment and giveaways and prizes. And there's all these things you had to think about. With virtual events, there's really only two levers to pull: visual and verbal, what people are seeing and what people are hearing. And so while people have scaled down their budgets relative to what they would have spent on an in-person event, they have to invest more in the verbal and the visual. And so with the sketch effect, with what we're doing, which is virtual sketching, virtual live sketching, or virtual graphic recording, our clients have found that it's a really worthy investment, because it helps them connect the dots visually. It helps bring a visual element to make sure they're not just getting the verbal right, but they're also getting the visual side of their virtual event right as well. So yeah, we've seen a lot of interest in what we're doing. Everybody's craving something different, something new, not only just for a cool factor, but also just to make the event more engaging, more effective, to make the takeaways more relevant, to extend the engagement after people click the little button and sign out of the virtual event. So it's been a lot of fun to add value in that way as we've all adjusted to this world of virtual events, which we're all figuring out every day.
Yeah, well, I think that takeaway part is really important, because I think depending on the event, there can be so much information and so much going on that it's difficult to grab some of the key things out of it. And yes, okay, you could go back the next day and watch the whole event again, but some of us don't have the time to do stuff like that. So I think I can see a huge value in summarizing and really homing in on some of the key aspects, some of the key things that have happened. And I can see how then that can help during, because it can help focus the mind on people that are watching, but also post, as you say, sort of extend the virtual event. I can see how that can be really helpful in then sharing that. So that takeaway part, I guess, when you first started sketching meetings, it was the doodling, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It wasn't the takeaway, I guess.
Yeah. So the takeaway back in the early days was literally a doodle on a whiteboard or a sketch on a roll of paper. And so, pre-pandemic, the takeaway was physical. People got to keep the actual physical sketch. And we have always also provided a digital version, so we'd photograph the sketch as well. So people not only would keep their physical sketch, a roll of paper or a sketch on a foam board or something, but they'd also get a digital version of it, a photograph that we would then edit and clean up and make it look nice. But then as technology evolved, our team got more and more into digital sketching, so using a tablet in the drawing program. And we were actually extremely grateful that we got into that, because in 2019, we equipped our entire team with iPads, and we did our entire training on how to draw digitally, because it's a big shift for an artist, going from using pen and paper and markers and ink in a tactile way to using program and working in pixels and layers and all that. It's a big shift. So in 2019, we did a big initiative to train our team and equip our team to draw digitally. And then a few months later, the world shut down, and we were very grateful that we had made that decision when we did, because we were ready to pivot immediately to offer digital sketching done virtually through a program like Zoom or, Microsoft Teams or GoToMeeting. So yeah, the takeaway is super important. And that's, one of the things we emphasize the most, which is that with an in-person event, once the event's over, people linger in the lobby, they hang out in the hotel bar, they're sharing cabs to the airport, they're riding planes home. So they have a lot of time to process what they've learned at their event. They have a lot of time to just kind of soak in it a little bit. But with virtual events, people click the button and then they're gone. And then they're on to the next email, the next thing, the next meeting. And so the Sketch Effect, the work we're doing, we want to extend the value and keep that conversation going after that virtual event's over. And so providing compelling visuals for people to remember it is how we do it.
Yeah, that's so true. I can resonate with that. Once you do leave an event, you literally, because you're at your computer and at your desk, you do go on to the next thing, and so you don't have that recap time or that reflection time at all. That's a really important point that ironically you're making me reflect on. But it's so true, isn't it? I can see how there'll be many things, including the Sketch Effect, how you could really help with that situation. So
exactly. Yeah, exactly. And at the end of the day, we just want to add value to these events. I mean, it's not ideal to live in a pandemic, and we're making the most of it. And so our mindset is, if we can make a virtual event a little better and make people understand what they're learning and then take action, like that's a win for us.
So what are the type of events that work really well for what you offer? And I know you work very closely with corporate event planners, whether that's in-house or whether it be consultants. But what type of events are the ones that really match and work and where you can add the most value?
That's a great question. And the answer is almost all the above. We've done everything from corporate summits with keynote speakers, CEO presentation. We've done student kind of roundtables where we're talking to universities and they're doing breakout sessions and working through topics. We've done virtual trade shows where we're in a virtual booth and kind of sketching for people to see like a product. Webinars is an obvious one. With a webinar, we help capture all the ideas visually, which then provides extra value to all the attendees, and then also helps sell the next webinar, because webinar organizers can send out the sketch to people and say, this is what you missed. You signed up, so don't miss the next one because this content's great. You're going to love it. Just tomorrow, or in 2 days, we're doing a closed door 5-person strategic planning session with a large corporation here in the States with their leadership team. So we'll do like these tiny, intimate little design thinking sessions all the way up to these big kind of ticketed webinars with thousands and thousands of attendees. So it's all over the map.
And in terms of in-person stroke virtual, so hybrid, where I assume that's only going to play to your skills, and what's well, let's just ask a bigger question, because you obviously work a lot in the event industry. What are your
It's a great question. That's one that we get asked a lot. I do think that I think we'll end up in a place where we're doing both in-person events and virtual events with excellence. And I think what we're learning is that some events cater better to virtual. You can get people on quicker. It's better people's calendars. And then other events obviously cater better to in-person, ones that are more about culture and relationships and experiences. And so I think we're going to end up in a place where we're doing both a lot of in-person events, and they're going to be awesome. And we're going to be doing a lot of virtual events, and they're going to be awesome. And then I do think that we will see this sort of hybrid expectation form where event organizers will be expected to have both an in-person option for people that want to do that, and then a virtual version of it that folks can opt into as well. And so I think we're going to end up in this kind of blended state, whether it's in 6 months or 8 months or a year, whatever it is. Yeah, it's a lot of fun to try to ride the wave and try to be on the cutting edge of innovation in this space.
I guess we've just got to look at the sports sector. So, ultimately, a game of football, what we call it in the UK, is an in-person and a virtual event at the same time, and that's been like that for many, many years.
Yeah.
So perhaps we all need to be looking at the sports industry and thinking about how what we could learn from them. Perhaps I'm not sure. I'm just thinking, because hybrid is nothing new. That's the point I'm making there.
Right.
It's just that this industry is now thinking about it.
Exactly.
And prior to that, it was one or the other. And I think there's so many pros, to each one. So virtual, you've got the pros of being able to get a much wider audience that are available. Again, from a speaker's point of view, the commitment that a speaker makes is so much less. They don't have to make as big a commitment. So it really does open it up. But of course, in person, you can't beat that face to face and the reality and the sort of the buzz and the what you see. So, yeah, I'm just wondering if there's anything for us to learn there. Were you going to say something?
Oh no, I was just going to say, yeah, I think with sports is a great example that the super fans are the ones that are going to be in the seats, the people that really want to invest in the experience, and the folks that are still fans but maybe don't have the time or the money or the option to travel in, they're the ones that will be processing it or experiencing it virtually. So
come on, in 2019 you were getting your artists on iPads. What was the real reason for that? Because you didn't see virtual being as big as this, surely.
Yeah, the real reason is that, we're always just trying to innovate our product and try to offer our clients different options. And so a lot of our clients said they'd seen us do the markers on paper. They'd seen us do the sketching on big boards or big murals. And so we wanted to give another option. And so with digital sketching, clients have the option to stream it. They had an option to record it and then to stream it to a virtual platform. We weren't thinking that all events would be virtual. We thought this would just be kind of an option, like an add-on, like a peripheral thing. So it was really just for us to offer a more diverse product mix to our clients. And it also artistically, we can do some really cool things with digital sketching that you can't do with physical. Like we can move stuff around, we can resize things, we can pick a color palette that matches a brand's brand standards exactly to the RGB code. So there's a lot of there's a different set of things we can do with the digital sketch. So that's why we were diving more into it in 2018 and 2019. And then of course it became the only thing in 2020.
Well, it's brilliant that you were doing that. What, just for people that are watching or listening right now, in terms of the virtual events, and if there was an event planner thinking about how they could add more value and make events more visual, what would be some of the top tips you could share?
Yeah, so one is obviously work with us. That's the obvious one, is to hire us. But I think that beyond that, with the fact that budgets are not, you don't need a budget for like flights and lodging and meals and all that. I just encourage clients to really invest in the audio visual of their event. Like, it needs to be top notch. So if you're gonna have video content, go all out, make great video content. If you're gonna have slides, go all out and make a great slide presentation. I think obviously sketch effect were an option. Having a live sketch artist on the screen keeps people engaged visually. People can follow along. And then even beyond that, we always encourage our clients to extend the visual, or rather to get their audiences sketching on their own too. Like, just for fun, like our team at the Sketch Effect, we'll just do like a fun little team virtual meeting, and we'll do like a visual, like a Pictionary, where we put a minute on the clock and we draw something and everyone holds up their sketches, and it can get pretty goofy and pretty fun. So there's some games you can play. There's a game called Telestrations, which is a lot of fun. You can play that digitally. So yeah, I just think folks need to just always be thinking about how can they dial up the visuals of their event. It's people, event organizers should not expect to take their in-person slide deck and just throw it on a Zoom and expect it to succeed. It won't, because it's not the same as being in person.
Yeah.
And with a speaker, normally when they're on stage at an in-person, they're walking the stage. It's dynamic. They can see their gestures. They can see them moving around. With virtual, it's just flat screen. So if you're seeing a little talking head and then a boring slide deck, people are going to tune out. So
well, I was about to say exactly that, because we've spoken at a virtual conference recently, and in fact that was exactly the format, where you've got this big slide deck, small talking head, but that's just so not engaging, because you're right. If you were in the room, normally you'd be on the stage, you'd be walking around, you'd have quite a presence. So, just purely the fact that that we're still having these big slides, small head, that's totally wrong, isn't it?
Yep. You can't take your playbook for an in-person event, whether you're a planner or a speaker or a presenter, and then just apply the same play to a virtual. It's not gonna work. It's not the same. It's a different medium. It's a different, different set of variables.
Interestingly, I'm not sure that the platforms have realized this, because if you look at Zoom, if you look at Teams, just as two, but also some of the event platforms that we will be familiar with as well, there are very few options to change sizes. So you are literally, if you're sharing a screen, you share the entire, it's a big screen and you've got a small head, and so I wonder if actually it's the platforms that are actually still behind and don't realize they need to change.
Yeah, that's a great point. And there are some more robust virtual event platforms out there. Like I know the event that we both spoke at, they offer a really, really cool platform. There's a platform called InEvent, which is really great. There's a platform called SwapCard. There's a platform called, there's a bunch. But yeah, a standard Zoom does not give you, Zoom is great for what it is, but it doesn't give you a ton of flexibility in terms of the visual layout and kind of windows and frames and what people can see and click on. So yeah, that's another thing I would encourage people to do, is to invest and learn a really good event platform that gives you more functionality to make it as visual as possible. Because here's the thing: when you're on a virtual event, you are competing with the internet for people's attention. Literally billions of options out there that are going to be way more exciting than your virtual event. You might think it's exciting, but it's probably not going to be more exciting than someone's Twitter feed or their Facebook or their best blog or their email inbox or their calendar or their text messages, whatever it is. Virtual event organizers are competing against all those things. So if your event doesn't have visuals dialed up to the max and high quality, audio visual, high quality content, and fast-paced content, that's another thing. It's just kind of moving quickly through stuff. You're gonna lose people's attention quickly.
Yeah, I agree with the high quality audio and visual, because I used to say that it's all about the content. Good content, you tend not to care too much about the audio and the video, because it's the content that you want. But actually, the level of content that's out there now, it's got to be good content, but it's also got to be something that's easy on the eye, nice to listen to, because otherwise, people just switch off. And especially if they've got, a really decent laptop or screen, and you're just giving them this sort of crap visual, it's not great, is it?
Exactly.
So you obviously went from you're still in the creative industry, but of course you went from being a creative to owning your own business. That's one of the other things that you talk about. So where do creatives get it wrong, and where are the how do you become going from creative to sort of generating your own revenue and growing a small business?
Sure. I think where creatives get it wrong is that they think, and understandably so, because school trains them to think this way, that if they have the best product or they're best at their craft, then they will be successful in business, because they're used to being in school. They're used to be working on a project and they do a great job and they get an A, they get 100, whatever, they get a great grade, and they're being graded only on the quality of their product. But I think where creatives get it wrong is that when you are in the marketplace and when you're in business, it's not just having the best product. You also have to have great systems. You also have to be great at communication. You have to be great at marketing and branding, and just like we were talking about earlier, stuff like SEO, like things that I didn't even never know about that matters. Like, so I think that creatives like myself, we focus so much on just being the best at what we do, whether it's graphic design or animation or illustration. But we also, at the same time, need to be learning what a P&L is, how to read a P&L, understanding the basics of cash flow, understanding the fundamentals of sales, understanding how to draft a contract, how to write a proposal, understanding how to organize your business. Like, these are some things that are not often taught in art schools, or they're shortchanged. They're not given enough time. And so yeah, that's something that I've learned, is just that there's a lot that goes into being a great creative professional beyond just having a great craft.
Yeah. I can see you reminding me of a book, actually, E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. I don't know if
it's on my shelf right behind me.
Yeah, and so I think the first story he starts telling is about a baker, and she's amazing at baking breads and cakes and all sorts of different things. But she's then she then thinks because of that she can then start her own business, and then there's all the things that you just don't think about, and the systemizing and systems and processes is just so important. And I loved that book for exactly that reason. It just made you think, and in fact I laughed all the way through because I read it probably a bit too late, and it was like, I made that mistake. I made that mistake.
I recommend that book to everybody who says, what is something I can read that will, like, where do I start? And I said, read the E-Myth. Revisit. There's another one that I like called Built to Sell, and it's all about how to grow a business that could be sold. Not necessarily that I'm doing that, or other people might do it, but a sellable business is a good business, like a business that would be appealing to a buyer, to an acquisition or whatever. That is going to be a good business. So either way, it's worth building a business that embodies the fundamentals in the E-Myth and things like that. So
okay, so you educate yourself, you get an understanding of all these things. What are the other things that you need to put in place? Is it about finding a partner? Is it about aligning yourself with maybe an associate business? What is it, or is it just about the education and understanding?
I think it's all the above. So yeah, I think there's a basic fundamentals of business that need to be understood, not necessarily mastered. I think that anyone can start a business and kind of figure it out as they go. That's kind of what I did, is let's just take it day by day. Let's constantly learn, but let's learn. Like, let's figure out how to do this, how to get better. I think the next important thing, though, does have to do with your time, and how you delegate work, because again, with creatives, we're not taught how to delegate. In art school growing up, we're given a project and we do the whole project from start to finish by ourselves. There might be some collaboration if it's a group project, but for the most part, we're doing it by ourselves and we're accountable to ourselves and all that. But in business, especially for creatives, time is your most valuable resource. More than anything else, my time, how I spend my time, will have the best impact, either for better or for worse, on my business. So creatives need to be thinking very quickly, what are the things they can delegate to someone else, whether it's an assistant or a part-time employee or a contractor or even a full-time employee, if that's the direction people are going in, because your time needs to be allocated to the things that will create the most impact. And so for me, like, it's not worth my time to sit and type up all of our invoices and to calculate what I need to pay my team, and to calculate what bills we need to pay. So I waited way too long to find somebody to help me with this. I waited like 2.5 years to find someone to help me do invoices, which is so dumb in hindsight. But the second I did it, I realized, oh, this is great. Now I've got 4 or 5 extra hours in my week to spend on growing the business or investing in new strategies or new products. And so I think delegation is a huge one that creatives need to think about. And then yeah, we'll stop there. I think that's a big enough one.
Yeah, well, I sort of say the same thing, because I used to put off paying for apps or software. And it was only that, once I did it, it was like, oh my God, I wish I'd have done that sooner. And so my advice is, if you can see that there's an app that you think might help, don't worry about, paying, if it's going to cost you $30 a month or whatever, just think of the hours that might give you. And even if you end up with 10 apps costing you $30 now a month, as long as they are being efficient and doing the right things and giving you 10 times the hours back or whatever it might be, it's worth it. So don't delay, just, try it. And if it helps, then, go for it.
Or hiring a tax guy. Like, so many people are doing their own taxes. And I'm just like, I don't know how to do it. It's going to stress me out. I'm going to be worrying about doing it wrong. So I'm just going to pay someone to do it. Trust their expertise. And, it's going to seem like it's going to cost a lot, especially to smaller businesses or people that are just starting out. They'll say, what, I've got to pay how much? But it's worth it because you get more time, and then you can redeploy that time to grow the business and to do the thing that you love the most and the thing that you enjoy the most and the thing that adds the most value. So that's a huge lesson that I've learned.
Absolutely. So I want to round up on active listening, and the reason that you introduced that was, well, one of the things is, of course, your artists need to, be fully listening and fully engaged when they are sketching away. But what's your take on active listening and some of the tips? And in fact, if anything, my understanding is that, for you, this is everything around. This isn't just work. This is home, life, the whole lot.
Absolutely. Active listening is the most important skill that our live artists bring to the table, even more than their ability to draw, than their ability to come up with visual concepts. Their ability to listen is the most important skill they bring, because what we're doing is, as we've discussed, is we're showing up at these corporate events. We don't know the brand. I mean, we don't know the company. We're not subject matter experts, but our artists are able to immerse themselves in the content, listen on a deeper level, filter out the fluff, and really draw out the core ideas, and then literally draw them out on paper or, on an iPad. And so, we have had people apply to work for us who are great illustrators, insanely creative, really good at the craft of drawing, but they're just not great listeners. And so, unfortunately, we don't hire them because they need to be a great listener to deliver our product. And so we've learned a thing or two about listening and actually what happened. And so we've built this whole curriculum to train our team on how to be better listeners. And that was just an internal resource for our team to use. But we had a lot of our clients say, how can your artists do that? Like, how do they know what to listen for? What do they know to draw? Like, they're not experts. And we say, well, we're all great at listening. And so a few years ago, one of our clients said, can you come share with our team how to do it? And so I kind of did some research and prepared some content around listening, and have shared it with several of our clients and folks in, around or teams out there. And one thing I say is that listening is perhaps the most underrated, but most critical of all skills. We spend years in school and in college learning how to read, how to write, how to speak, but we have very little formal training on how to listen. It's just kind of expected that people know how to do it. And most of us are terrible at it. And so, we always emphasize that listening is a skill. It's something that you can get better at. It's something you can work on. And it's like you mentioned, it matters in every facet of life. In the workplace, if you're a better listener, you'll be a better boss to your team. If you're a better listener, you'll be a better employee. If you are in sales or, you're trying to win clients and keep clients happy, your ability to listen will help you be better at selling. But then it's bigger than that. In family matters, in relationship matters, your ability to listen will lead to deeper, more richer relationships, fewer miscommunications. And then in society, there's so much going on right now in society. And, if we only just spend a little bit more time listening, less time speaking or tweeting or posting or whatever, I think we'd have a lot less drama, a lot less division in society. So I know that was a lot I just ran through, but I'm a big believer in the power of active listening. And it's a skill that if you take the time to master, you will just reap tons and tons of benefits from it.
You've summarized it really well, though. I like it. What I'm interested in on top of that is perhaps some of your top tips on how to become an active listener and how to improve your listening skills.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first tip is that active listening is a switch you need to turn on. Like, we are not by default actively listening. We're passive listeners. Society has taught us to be passive listeners. TV, podcasts like this. Like, most of the time when we're listening, it's kind of a passive thing where we're taking the content, but we're not taking it to the next level. So first of all, when you are active in an active listening mindset, it is like a literal switch that you're turning on. So that's the first thing, is to kind of regard it as a mode, like a shift, like you're shifting into listening gear. And then a second thing is that it's important to acknowledge the distractions when you are in a listening context. That is, there's tons and tons of distractions that are waging war on your ability to listen. And there's both internal distractions and external distractions. So internal distractions are things like, I didn't get much sleep last night. I'm a little bit hungry. It's cold in this room. I'm daydreaming about my trip coming up. I'm thinking about that argument I got into with my friend last week, whatever. These are all internal distractions. And the thing about internal distractions is that they are not going to go away. So you have to choose to compartmentalize them and say, I'm going to deal with this later. I'm going to, this distraction, I'm just going to, I know I'm hungry, but I'm just going to put it in a box and save it for later because I'm listening right now. Then there's also external distractions. So these are things that are in your environment, like a noisy air conditioning unit, or you're sitting next to a window and there's a beautiful view out the window and you're trying to pay attention to the meeting you're in, but you're also looking out the window at the skyline or whatever. Or you're in an event and the speaker has a weird shirt on. You're wondering, why did they choose that color? Why did they wear that awful salmon colored shirt? These are all external distractions. And with external distractions, you need to just choose to ignore them. Just choose to ignore them. This is a big one for our artists, especially, pre-pandemic at live events, because we'd be working in ballrooms or in conference centers or at, arenas. And, maybe people would be having a meal and be clinking their forks and, drinking, having their drinks and clinking their silverware, and it can be really distracting. Or maybe there will be an echo in the room or a reverb. Those are all distractions. So we just have to choose to kind of rise above that. So those are two big ones. And then the third one I'll leave you with is that that you can listen for cues. People will give out cues as they're talking, kind of signals about how to listen to them. With more professional presenters, these cues will be very deliberate. Like, they will say, I'm going to give you 3 things, or I'm going to tell you about the ABCs of whatever. And then they'll be like ABC, it'll be an acronym. Or the cues will be more subtle. Like, they'll say, if you only remember one thing from my talk, it's this. Or they'll indicate that they're shifting directions, say, okay, now let's move on to whatever. And so these are all verbal cues. But there's also nonverbal cues where if somebody is changing their pitch or their cadence or their tone, or they're getting really, really like quiet, really soft, or they're getting really loud, like these are all indicators. They're clues for the listener how to follow along. And really polished speakers are really good at this, and they'll use their cues deliberately. But even people that are not presenting formally, just having discussion, they'll give cues too. Like, they'll repeat themselves a lot for what's important. They'll use metaphors. They'll use symbols. So these are all the cues that we train our artists to listen to, and that we encourage folks who want to be a better listener to also look out for as well, because the cues are clues to what people are trying to communicate. And so you can follow the cues, use them as clues to, get to the heart of the matter.
Some brilliant tips there for our active listeners or watchers, maybe listeners that are listening right now. They've clicked the switch.
Yep.
And maybe they are an event planner, a corporate event planner, looking to increase the visual appearance of their virtual events. What would be the best way to find you, William?
So they can find us at thesketcheffect.com. That's the THE, then sketch, SKETCH, and then effect with an E, thesketcheffect.com. They can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at The Sketch Effect. So we make it very easy for people to get in touch with us. Again, going back to the systems, so you just go on our website. We got a live chat. You can reach us there or send us a contact form, and we respond within minutes. If folks want to learn more about the work I'm doing with creative entrepreneurs and kind of training creatives how to be better at business, I have a website called theconqueringcreative.com, theconqueringcreative.com. And it's just a place where I'll post some tips and some templates like business model canvas, a delegation guide, like how to draft a proposal, just some tips to help creatives make business a little bit less intimidating, a little bit less boring, and help them tackle the beast of business. So that's theconqueringcreative.com. Also on Instagram at theconqueringcreative for those who want to see content there. But yeah, if any of your listeners want to reach out and learn more, we're happy to talk to anybody who wants to learn more about this wild world of sketching and how it can make virtual events even better.
This has been a jam-packed pod. It's been brilliant. Thank you so much for giving your time up. And we've covered some all sorts of different subjects. And I love the improving your listening by being an active listener. I think that's really important for all of us. And as you said, in all walks of life, so not just at work, we can be better leaders, but also better husbands, better wives, better partners, and better parents even. So,
oh yeah, we didn't even talk about parenting.
We didn't even talk about parenting.
That's a big one.
That's the next pod.
Yeah, we'll see that later.
Thank you so much for taking part. It's been brilliant. I can't wait to see the Sketch Effect at a future event, and look forward to probably speaking to you again at some point online. But for now, thank you. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Please do hit the subscribe button, and please tell your friends. That would be great. But for now, that's a goodbye from me and goodbye from William.
Thanks so much. I appreciate the opportunity to share.
Take care, everyone.